everybody, it's Tara here from Tiny Teas, and welcome back to Tiny Teas Bedtime Stories series. This first bit of the series, I am performing the story of The Wind in the Willows by Kenneth Grahame, and today I am dressed as Mr. Badger, because this is Chapter 4, Mr. Badger. The Badger, who wore a long dressing gown and whose slippers were indeed very down at heel, carried a flat candlestick in his paw and had probably been on his way to bed. He looked kindly down on them and patted both their heads. "This is not the sort of night for small animals to be out," he said. "I'm afraid you've been up to some of your pranks again, Ratty. But come along, come into the kitchen. There's a first-rate fire there, and supper, and everything." The floor was well-worn red brick, and on the wide hearth burnt a fire of logs. How cosy! There were rows of spotless plates that winked from the shelves of the dresser at the far end of the room. From the rafters overhead there hung hams, bundles of dry herbs, nets of onions, and a basket of eggs. It seemed a place where heroes could fitly feast after a victory. And the kindly badger thrust them down on a settle to toast themselves at the fire, and he removed their wet coats and boots. And then he fetched them some dressing gowns and slippers, and he bathed the mole's shin with warm water and mended the cut with sticking plaster until the whole thing was just as good as new, if not better. When at last they were thoroughly toasted, the badger summoned them to the table. Conversation was impossible for a long time, and when it was slowly resumed, it was that regrettable sort of conversation that results from talking with your mouth full. The badger did not mind that sort of thing at all, nor did he take any notice of the elbows on the table, or everybody speaking at once. He sat in his armchair at the head of the table and nodded gravely at intervals as the animals told their story, and he did not seem surprised or shocked or anything. And he never said, "I told you so," or "just what I always said," or remarked that they ought to have done so and so, and the mole began to feel very friendly towards him. "Now then, tell us the news from your part of the world. How is old Toad getting on?" "Oh, from bad to worse," said the rat gravely. "Another smash-up last week, and a bad one. You see, he will insist on driving himself, and he's hopelessly incapable." "Ah, how many has he had?" asked the badger gloomily. "Smashes or machines?" asked the rat. "Oh well, after all, it's just the same thing with Toad." "This is the 7th. "He's been in hospital 3 times, put the mole. "And as for the fines he's had to pay, it's simply awful to think of."
"Well then," went on the badger, "we, that is, me and you, and our friend the mole here, we'll take Toad seriously in hand. We'll stand no nonsense whatsoever. We'll bring him back to reason, by force if need be. We'll make him a sensible Toad. We'll, You're asleep, Ratty."
"Oh, not me," said the rat, waking up with a jerk. "He's been asleep 2 or 3 times since supper," said the mole. And soon after, they all began to get a little bit sleepy, so they went upstairs to bed. The 2 tired animals came down to breakfast very late the next morning and found a bright fire burning in the kitchen and 2 young hedgehogs sitting on a bench at the table, eating oatmeal porridge out of a wooden bowl. The hedgehogs dropped their spoons and rose to their feet, and they ducked their heads respectfully at the 2 that entered.
Where have you youngsters come from? Lost your way in the snow, I suppose, said the rat.
Yes, please, sir, said the elder of the two hedgehogs respectfully. Me and little Billy here, we was trying to find our way to school. Mother would have us go, was the weather ever so, and of course we lost ourselves, sir, and Billy, he got frightened and cried, being young and faint-hearted.
I understand, said the rat. And what's the weather like outside? And you needn't sir me quite so much, he added.
Oh, terribly bad, sir. Yes, terribly deep the snow is, said the hedgehog. Where's Mr. Badger? Asked the mole. And then suddenly the doorbell clanged loudly. Clang, 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 clang. Who else could it be? The rat, who was very greasy with buttered toast, sent Billy, the smaller hedgehog, to see who it might be. And Billy returned with the otter. The otter threw himself at the rat with an embrace and a shout of affectionate greeting. Oh, get off! Splattered the rat with his mouth full. Thought I should find you here all right, said the otter cheerfully. They were all in great state of alarm along riverbank when I arrived this morning. Rat never been home all night, nor mole either. Something dreadful must have happened, they said. And the snow had covered up all your tracks, of course. But I knew that when people were in any fix, they mostly went to Badger. And then a plate of fried ham had just been cleared and sent back for some more, when the Badger entered, rubbing his eyes and yawning, and greeted them all in a quiet, simple way, with kind inquiries for everyone.
Here, you two youngsters be off home to your mother, said the Badger kindly. I'll send someone with you to show you the way.
And presently they all sat down to lunch together. The mole, the rat, Mr. Badger, and the otter. The mole found himself placed next to the Badger, and as the other two were still deep in river gossip, he took the opportunity to tell Badger how comfortable and homelike it all felt to him. Once well underground, he said, you know exactly where you are. Nothing can happen to you, and nothing can get at you. You're entirely your own master, and when you want to, up you go. And there the things are, all waiting for you. And the Badger simply beamed at him.
That's exactly what I say. Nothing like Toad, of course.
And after a while, with lots of chit-chat at the table, they all sat down together for some comfort. And Moley looked at Badger and he said, How on earth, Badger, did you ever find time and the strength to do all of this? It's astonishing.
It would be astonishing indeed, said the Badger simply, if I had done it. But as a matter of fact, I did none of it. Very long ago, on the spot where the wild wood waves now, there was a city of people, you know. Here, where we are standing, they lived and walked and talked and slept and carried on their business. And here they stabled their horses and feasted. They were powerful people.
And in the late afternoon, the mole and the rat decided it was now time to go home, back to the riverbank. The rat was walking up and down, very restless. He put his overcoat on and he said,
Come along, Mole. We must get off while it's daylight. Don't want to spend another night in the wild wood again.
Oh, it will be all right, my fine fellow, said the otter. I'm coming along with you, and I know every path blindfold. And if there's a head that needs to be punched, yes, you can confidently rely on me to punch it. And very soon, they were off again, back home, through the wild wood, and back out over onto the riverbank. They were a little bit nervous, as it was a bit dark in the wild wood, and they heard the leaves crunching and the twigs crackling under their feet. But the otter knew the way, and so he led the path. And Molly heard the voices again, and he saw some faces again, but he knew he was on his way home, and the riverbank was where he belonged. Thank you everybody for watching tonight. I hope you have very sweet dreams. And join me next time for chapter 5 of The Wind in the Willows. I'll see you soon.